Hey folks, this is Mike here with a conclusion to last week's video on Mr. Shifty. This here is another video in the same style, one of these unscripted, unedited, NoScript deals, where I'm going to give you more or less a review, if you will, a conclusion on the game, and yeah, what I think about it since I completed it. I think I spent maybe 3 hours or so total. It's not a particularly long game, but based off of where I was last week to where I completed it over the week, yeah, the game gets pretty wild as you get further and further into it. They have a lot of neat ideas, a lot of neat mechanics. I know I mentioned stuff like, hey, the enemies are a little similar, which might make, colorblind issues a thing, but yeah, the new enemies they introduced totally don't have that problem, so it's only kind of the early game stuff that might be slightly problematic. But even then, the shapes are unique enough. I think most people probably won't have a huge issue with that. Yeah, other than that, I think they do a wonderful job with the mechanic, The game has a pretty simple, pretty straightforward mechanic of the teleporting. Enemies, yeah, they look and react a little stupidly at times, but I think it works really well with what this game is trying to get you to do. I like the fact that they don't just rely on enemies and gimmicks, but there's also level design things coming into play, and there's a lot of variety in that sense too. And some of the later levels, they do get a little bit longer, but they also get pretty intense at times. So I had a lot of fun with that. Now this one here is a little bit tough. I need to get rid of that guy, which we've successfully done. May as well get rid of these guys, even though we don't need to at this point in the game. But yeah, this is really the kind of game that, and I almost would say it doesn't happen too often. This is definitely the kind of game where I almost want to just go back and beat it again and complete it, with the perfect achievement of, whew, that was close, of basically beating, oh shit, that's right, I can get killed through walls. When they shoot walls, they can actually shoot them down. Otherwise, yeah, this is one of the few games where I feel like I should go back and actually complete it that way. There's not a lot of games out there that I like to do that on, but I think this would be one of those. They've just done a really good job with it. They've made a simple game, a simple mechanic. They've put in a lot of neat setups, neat level variety, and it just ends up working out really, really well. I remember, or while I was playing this, I was looking at some of the reviews as well, and I found it kind of interesting that this game was not particularly well received, which I was kind of wondering is maybe if it was a difficulty thing, or when the game was released or something like that, and I kind of came up blank on that, because in a lot of ways you heard people praise games like Hotline Miami, which this kind of reminds me of that in some ways. It's one of those just really, really fast-paced, almost twitchy shooter sort of brawlers, I guess. I don't know. I'm just throwing out words here. But if you look at a game like Hotline Miami, this certainly does remind me of that genre, if you will. But in a lot of ways, it's a far less depressing game. It was a pretty nasty atmosphere in Hotline, whereas this is, more fun, just silly, if you will. And I think it's just a much more fun game because of that. Oh, right, this level. Again, this is a a really neat mechanic that's happening here. I went too far. But if you're gonna go too far, you may as well go all the way. Oh shit. I would have been safe there. Alright. Let's back go again. See how far we can get here. Oh, really? Oh, jeez. Alright. I'm slightly surprised that that angle actually worked. Yeah, because I'm safe here now. Yeah, they've gone places with this game, especially compared to last week. Now that I'm much further into it. They've done some really cool stuff with the later levels, some of the setups and whatnot. You know, they've kept it unique. They didn't really try and force too much stuff down. So I really appreciate games that, you know, they keep it short. They don't try and stretch it out too long. And this game definitely does not do that, which I'm very grateful for. You know, not to say other games out there do this, or, you know, say it's a bad thing having a really long game. But I feel like it happens a lot, where some, you know, very simple games may stretch it out a little too long. They don't have necessarily enough to offer to keep me going for, you know, many hours. I think this game, I prefer it to end short than for it to go long. And they definitely ended it, I'd say, about the right time. They certainly could have added a level or two, but yeah, I think that's about it, really. Yeah, they've done some neat stuff. Certainly not perfect, but I thought I looked good fun with it. Oh, is that going on fire? No! Why are any of these guys going on fire? Oh, that one is. Ugh. Usually they catch fire and you can just kill a bunch of them that way. Whew. Oh, a big stick works too. Unfortunately, some stuff like the flamethrower, it's only bullets really that you can dodge. Certain weapons are not dodgeable, but rather your slow-mo. Slow-mo doesn't work on every weapon in this game, which I don't know how I feel about that. I think it makes it more challenging. If it worked on everything on the game, I think it would be kind of too easy. I wonder if some of the reviews out there that, you know, they complain about the lack of story. Well, what do you want them to do, right? Like, are they going to put a serious story in this kind of game? No. This is the perfect kind of story for the perfect kind of game. Or for this kind of game. So, you know, I can't see having a long, drawn-out, serious story adding much. Whew. Teleporting around is one thing, but eliminating enemies is a lot better. Yeah, it's a neat concept. You know, I've had a lot of fun with it. I've been pretty happy with the difficulty for the most part. I never really struggled with a lot of levels. I'm having a little bit more of a hard time now because I am concentrating on talking a little bit more. But I found the game for the most part was, you know, balanced well. Whew, I gotta be careful with those explosions, because they can be quite lethal. But there you go. We finished the stage, so that kind of gives you an idea. There's 13, we're on 13. There's 18 in total. Some of them are much longer than others. I believe this is actually one of the shorter ones. But yeah, you know, as rare as it is, this is one of those games that I feel is, at least for myself, quite replayable. I'm slightly tempted to go back and replay it right away, but anyone who's watched this channel regularly would know I have a huge gaming backlog, so I probably don't want to do that. But yeah, with that said, Mr. Shifty, I'd say, look, if this seems interesting to you, go ahead and give it a go. If you're kind of on the fence about it, just wait for a Steam sale. It'll come down in price, and I think it'll be well worth it. I believe US Steam Store it's $15. I believe so, I'm not sure. Here in Canada, I think it's $17, $18, which is slightly pricey, but I've had a short 3 hours, and all of it has been really fun. And you know, the later levels get pretty intense. So I would say, yeah, I'd absolutely pay for it, despite the fact that I got it through Humble Bundle. But anyways, that is it for now. I'll leave you guys here, and I'll catch you guys next time.